What is up, folks? Welcome back to Sinisterum. Today, we're going to dive into the Tylenol Murders, which happened in 1982. Make sure you like, subscribe, and give us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. I'm a 90s kid, so I had to have somebody, a very special guest, join us today. You might be seeing more of him on upcoming episodes, but tune in and you'll see who that is right after the story. All right, let's go. On the morning of September 29th, 1982, in the Chicago suburb of Elk Grove Village, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman woke up with a sore throat. Her parents did what any caring parents would do. They gave her a capsule of extra-strength Tylenol. She was dead by 7 a.m. That same day, 27-year-old Adam Janus, a postal worker in nearby Arlington Heights, stayed home from work because he wasn't feeling well. He took Tylenol, collapsed, died. Later that day, his brother Stanley and sister-in-law Teresa came over to grieve with the family. They both had headaches. They both took Tylenol from Adam's bottle. They both died within hours. 7 people, healthy, normal, gone. What started as isolated tragedies quickly turned into a chilling pattern. In all, 7 people across the Chicago area died within days, and investigators noticed a common thread. Each one had taken extra-strength Tylenol capsules shortly before their sudden collapse. Autopsies revealed the horror. Each victim had ingested potassium cyanide, a lethal poison that works frighteningly fast, shutting down the body within minutes. The capsules looked normal. Sealed bottles, store shelves, no fingerprints. This was not an accident. Someone was tampering with Tylenol bottles, turning over-the-counter medicine into a tool for random, faceless murder. Word spread fast. Stores across the country yanked Tylenol from their shelves. Panic took hold. People threw away medicine cabinets worth of pills. Even hospitals stopped handing out pain meds. Johnson & Johnson, Tylenol's parent company, acted swiftly. They issued a nationwide recall of over 31 million bottles, costing them more than $100 million. They urged the public not to panic, but panic was inevitable. And then came the copycats. Across the country, dozens of incidents popped up, people tampering with food, pills, and other household items. It was like the country was under psychological attack, and it changed consumer trust forever. The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in its history. Hundreds of leads, tons of tips, but no solid evidence. Then came a letter. Someone claimed responsibility and demanded $1 million to make the killings stop. That man, James William Lewis, was arrested, but not for murder, only for extortion. There was no proof he'd tampered with the pills. He served 13 years in prison. To this day, no one has been charged with the Tylenol murders. Let that sink in. 7 random people were murdered in one of the most calculated acts of domestic terror in history, and the killer was never caught. The Tylenol case didn't just cause fear, it caused change. In fact, it completely reshaped how products are packaged and sold. The tamper-proof seals we see on medicine bottles today, they didn't exist before 1982. The FDA started enforcing stricter regulations on packaging. Pharmaceutical companies developed gel caps and blister packs to prevent tampering. Tylenol itself came back from the brink, eventually regaining public trust, a PR comeback that's been studied in business schools to this day. But justice? Justice never came. Welcome back to Sinistera. My name is Caleb. Thank you for joining us today. Today, as you've already seen, we are going to be discussing the Tylenol murders that happened in the early 80s. Today, I am joined by Josh, as always, my brother. Say hi, Josh.
Hello.
And Papa Jefe, our father.
Hello.
Rocking the Brooks and Dunn. All right. So we all just got done watching this. Actually, we got done with 5 hours of technical difficulties, but we'll pretend that didn't happen.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So shout out to the Wi-Fi in Worland, Wyoming. You guys are awesome. Love you guys.
Yeah. Range, if you hear this, I'm canceling immediately. So
Yeah. I still have my suck my back mug off to the side. Take a long look. Suckers. All right. All right. So let's get into this. So this happened in the early 80s. Obviously, Josh and I were not around because we're youngsters. That's why we had to pull our dad in on this one.
The old man. Yeah.
That's right. Do you remember when this happened?
I do. I was about a sophomore in high school because it happened in 1982?
Yep.
In September. So that would have been the fall of my sophomore year. And I'm telling you, any of the like aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, any of that stuff, any stuff off the shelf, they'd have like snap-on, snap-off caps or screw-on caps. There'd be a piece of cotton in there, keeping it I don't know, fresh or dry or whatever, and keep it from rattling around in the container. And sometimes it wouldn't even be in a box. You just find it on the shelf or whatever, and you took it up and you purchased it. So when this came out, especially my mom kind of freaked out about it and everything because we had Tylenol, we had extra strength Tylenol and everything, and so it caused quite a stir. It sure did.
So, did you have? I'm not saying you did this. I'm saying did would people just go into stores and steal individual like pills out of bottles?
Did anybody ever do that?
Did you know of people that did that?
Yeah, I didn't know of anybody doing that, but I grew up in a small little town. It was kind of kind of like a town of Mayberry during that time, and everybody knew everybody. I mean, yeah, there was some crime and that sort of thing, but people did stupid things back then too in a small town. But I wasn't aware of any of that in my town.
Everyone was just doing cocaine back then.
No, it's more like smoking
stuff.
Doobies. It wasn't me. It wasn't me though.
Yeah, right. No. Yeah, right.
Didn't inhale.
Yeah,
no,
old Bill.
That was before Bill Clinton. Well, yeah.
I think the thing that is scary about this is just now being a dad and like seeing, there's all these, everybody freaks out about everything now. And so, there's parents are so unwilling to, it's just like there's things that I did and we did as kids that we would know. There was no way I would let my kids do what we did sometimes.
Sure.
But knowing that, and just I've heard, and just with like fentanyl, especially right now, I hear so many horrible stories of like things that are laced with fentanyl and people, dying from that. And I won't name any names but I know a few people that I know secondhand, people that know people who have died from this. And so I don't know, to me, thinking about it, I'm like, I can't even imagine a time. I wasn't alive during a time where things were just open like that on shelves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, we were talking to a guy, a friend of ours that was talking about, why do they do it for some things, but not other things? And we were talking about this a little bit. So like shampoo, like you can still go in the shampoo aisle and just open it up and smell things. But what is stopping, by the way, this is if somebody cites me as the reason why they went in and did something atrocious,
there's your disclaimer right here.
Yeah, this is your disclaimer that it was not because of me, and you can't say that it was because I'm not suggesting it. But what would stop people from going in and putting, something dangerous in, like shampoo bottles or something like that?
Yeah, but you know what I'm thinking about this? There's always people that think things are a joke, do stupid things, you think about, people taking alcohol and spiking the punch. You think about, well, here's one for you. I had an aunt that died of an overdose several years ago, but when she was a teenager, and this is back in the 70s, someone laced her pop can with LSD. And she drank that, and LSD got in her system, everything, and she had flashbacks and everything for a long time after that. Someone doing something stupid, thinking, "Oh yeah, let's do this to her," and as a joke, and yeah, it messed her up.
What do you mean she had flashbacks for a long time? Like flashbacks
Oh,
to
just
that happening, or like
no, like
the LSD messed her up?
like hallucination type stuff.
Jeez,
Yeah,
that's
it's messed
freaking
up,
wild.
isn't it?
Yeah,
That is messed up.
well, you think about all the creeps out there that roofie people's drinks and stuff, and
Yep.
I've seen so many inventions people have made, which is sad that you even have to do that for like women in bars to know like if their drink has been tampered with, or like to keep their drink from being tampered with. And it's crazy that people would even resort to that. I was, after I recorded the dramatic reading of this, I was listening to different podcast, and they were talking about, and this, I wonder if, I'm sure you remember this too. They were talking about an incident in 1974. I guess you would have been, like 5 years old or
A little
or
kid,
7
maybe
or
a
something
little
like that. Anyways, this guy, his name was Ronald Clark O'Brien, and he was known as the Candyman. And all of this stuff kind of, the Tylenol murders, the Candyman thing, things like that, they all kind of were in the beginning of this whole thing called the Satanic Panic that happened in the 80s. And not that they were directly correlated, but they all happened at the beginning of this whole movement, which we can talk about too. But anyway, so Ronald Clark O'Brien in 1974, I thought this was insane. He poisoned a bunch of Pixy sticks.
Oh yeah.
It was cyanide. He laced them with cyanide to collect life insurance on his son.
Oh boy.
And he handed them out to neighborhood kids that came trick-or-treating. This was on Halloween.
Oh
and
yeah.
The only one who died was his son. And so, his idea was, I'm going to kill all these kids, and then to make it look like it was a random act, and then I'm going to collect insurance money on my son because I'm going to kill him too, which is absolutely insane. But
well, and you know what, I can also say this, that caused a different type of panic too, because I remember even as a little kid, trick-or-treating and whatnot, and if you want to take your bowl of, or your bag of candy over to the police station, they'll check your candy and make sure that everything looks legit and everything's good and everything. And if anybody hands out apples, you better go get checked that someone might have put razor blades in the apples and all this stuff. And so I'm sure that was part of that panic too. So unfortunately, this world is just full of evil and evil people that try different things, and this is similar to that, but different in the fact that it was with the extra strength Tylenol.
Well, and that happened. I mean, the Ronald Clark thing happened first, so I wonder. I mean, I'm sure people have, for who knows? I'm sure that people have been tampering with other people's food and stuff, and for a long time. Actually, I mean, that's where there were people who back in the day, back in history, ancient history, the king would have, kings would have a designated person that would test their food and see if they died before they ate it, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, even sipping the wine. Yeah, sipping the wine. What was that, Josh?
Especially with nowadays it's fentanyl. Like, people will run into fentanyl just by, I've heard of people putting fentanyl in rolled up dollar bills if they drop it, and if they someone picks it up and it can just get into their skin and they die. But
our friend is like how come they don't have tabs that you have to take off on shampoo and stuff? Because I'm surprised people have not started. Some crazy person out there is like, I'm going to put fentanyl in shampoo in Walmart or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, what I think.
Yeah.
I think is weird about that too is, if you look at the history of the whole Tylenol deal, I think Tylenol, if I remember right, started, sealing things, their bottles, whatever, in 1983. But when you think of a government entity, at the FDA, they didn't really come out with a guideline for it until like 1989. So what do you got? 84, 85, 86, 87, 89, 5 years later? Or did I do the math right? I don't know. 6 years later?
6 years later, yeah.
Yeah. So see, they didn't come out with a FDA guideline until 6 years later after this particular event, or after Tylenol came up with the idea, I guess. And so, yeah, it's kind of really delayed. So I guess you can't trust the government.
Have you ever?
Yeah, what else is new?
I didn't teach these guys any of this stuff. They learned that stuff on their own.
It was all mom.
We learned it from mom. Yeah.
The
only thing we learned from mom was the word schmick.
Schmick.
By the way, if you want a definition of the word schmick, we're going to put it right here.
Okay.
It can be used in various contexts. You can say schmick, schmick you, that's schmicked up, shut the schmick up.
You can put it in past tense. I was schmicked.
We all got schmicked last Saturday night.
Yeah.
It's a polite way to say impolite things.
It's just like how you can use dude in different ways as well.
Dude.
Dude. Speaking of being schmicked.
Uh-oh. I don't know if I want to hear this.
No, speaking of being schmicked, I mean, a lot of these people were schmicked when they took Tylenol.
They got
7 people got schmicked.
My question about that whole thing is it happened in the Chicago area. So the guy that got busted, like the number one suspect, was he from the Chicago area? I don't know.
And I think it was interesting. Well, I don't know why people admit to crimes. I guess, he tried to send a letter that was sneaky, but I don't what would you gain from that?
Yeah.
I guess maybe he wanted money, right? He wanted money to stop the killings.
No, but you would think that if you do that, and it almost like points it right at you. No wonder why he was the number one suspect. I mean, that was stupid. And he had to be in jail for what? Or prison for what? At least 10 years, was it? Because of the letter alone?
Well, yeah, and he only got arrested for extortion. He didn't get arrested. He said they said that there were no clues or no tie to the murders directly to him. So I don't know. I could think of better ways to make money myself, but
yeah.
Are we going to say, Josh?
I feel like some crazy people just like to do things just because they feel like they can get away with it.
They're just drawing attention to themselves.
Well,
yeah.
Like maybe this guy saw an issue with the Tylenol bottles and was like, how easy this would be? I'm just going to do it. So
I've listened to stories about people who confessed to murder that had nothing to do with it. It's like, why would you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah.
But I can see how someone would go, hey, I wonder if I do this, I can get away with it,
Yeah.
And it can be something just totally stupid. I mean, I remember, was it in high school? Can't remember. Yeah. Someone took a little piece of cardboard and just kind of blocked the door just enough at the high school I wonder if I put that there, if it'll still be open at 8:00 at night, whatever, when it's dark, and we can get inside the high school building. Well, sure enough, someone got in the building. Of course, that wasn't me.
Yeah, right. So you're saying that your generation ruined everything for us?
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
you guys have got to have all the fun so that by the time we got into high school, they locked it all down and said, you guys don't get to have any fun.
One of the craziest, I don't know why it came to mind, but I can remember when I was in high school, there were 3 stories to our high school in our town. And have you ever seen those canisters that mark where helicopters fly in? It's like a big, I don't know, smoke bomb almost, and they can come in different colors. Someone let off a big canister, purple smoke bomb in our high school, and it filled all the halls and went out the windows.
Inside of it? During
Inside.
school?
And yeah, and you could see it kind of coming out of the windows and everything. So there you go. Someone
they
just
cancel
said, you know
school?
what? I wonder. No, we had to stand outside until all cleared out and everything.
Oh my
It's
God.
like, I wonder if we brought this in, we'll see if we can get away with it. I never heard of anybody get in trouble for it, but they did just to try it.
It's like the soap bandit and Spearfish.
Oh,
The
yeah.
soap
Yeah, that's
bandit.
right.
The what?
You remember that?
What was a soap
Remember that?
bandit?
There's that
The
newer
fountain.
development. Yeah, there's that newer fountain that everyone hates. And somebody
Oh
poured,
yeah, at Miller Ranch.
Yep. And somebody poured soap in it and it like freaking bubbled everywhere. And
You know what? It happened just a couple of weeks ago again.
what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you know how there's they built that fence that goes all the way around it, thinking that it'd be harder for people to get in there and tamper with it. Well, someone threw, I don't know if they had a cup or something or whatever, threw it over there. I was driving to work into town on Colorado Boulevard, and there it was. Yeah, all bubbling over with, I don't know, Mr. Bubble or.
Yeah.
That's pretty
dishwasher.
funny though. I
So-
think that's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is
But-
when people see like a dead deer on the side of the road and they put a get well balloon on there and tie it to their leg. That's my
I've
favorite.
never seen that.
I literally saw it in Spearfish 2 years, like probably 5 years ago.
It was Josh.
It was
That
not.
happened right. That happened right before Josh moved. It probably was.
But all of this to say that people like to push boundaries, and insane
Yeah.
people like to push the boundaries even farther. So switching out Tylenol with hardcore drugs was on someone's
That's-
mind, and that's
It's messed up, and I'm sure that there's a lot of mental health problem with who did that. But you think about it, you guys growing up, myself growing up. Hey, I'll give you $50 if you, or hey, I dare you to, and everything. And so there's that little spark of yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens type of thing. But if you've got someone that's got some mental health problems and everything, they may go through something that's just absolutely insane. Like this, whoever did this murder. I mean,
this guy's other personality was daring him to do it.
yeah, I don't know. All I know is I saw something on this. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I guess different cops, I think this was in Chicago where it was happening, but there was a guy that was trying to investigate this and look, and they had found in a parking lot somewhere a pile of these little capsules and everything, and they were smashed on the parking lot. And there was that white powder and everything that was all in that same area, where the smashed capsules were. Now, I can't remember if they went and tested that. I'm sure they did, and see if there was cyanide in it or whatever. But just the idea that there was that pile out in a parking lot,
Was it in the area that this happened? I mean,
I don't remember exactly, but I remember, seeing a documentary on this not too long ago where they were mentioning this pile and the smashed capsules and everything. But, I was just recently in Chicago, back in May, and there's just so many people everywhere. People walking the streets, walking at night, all hours of the night, where we were driving and everything. And so you go down, go over to the beach by the high rises. There's just people everywhere. How in the world do you have law enforcement trying to narrow it down to one guy or a group of people or whoever did this? It's just like a needle in a haystack,
Well, I think it's a little bit
Mhm.
easier today with like DNA, but that's why like it's so interesting to study crimes back in the 80s and 70s and or even earlier, because it's like you could get away with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, it would still be hard to track that stuff down, but I mean, especially like in the case of the Janus guy, I can't remember his first name, but like he died and then his brother and sister-in-law or whatever came over and like also died because they took pills from the same bottle. And so it's like, I mean, there's got to be some sort of a contact DNA. Like I know they're looking, like there was that one case that just happened in Moscow, Idaho, about that guy that killed like those, I can't remember how many were there, like four
There's
college
4.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they like I think they used touch DNA on the knife that he used, and so they could
Oh.
tell that it was his knife, or at least he had been associated with that knife because of the touch DNA that was on, because he left the sheath behind, I think.
Gotcha.
And so, you could potentially test, that specific bottle if it
Yeah.
would have been in 2025, but obviously that, they didn't have that technology back then. So
Speaking of technology too, I think another thing that was kind of, well, I'm thinking of my little hometown, there would be grocery stores, they didn't have they didn't have cameras up, you know, they had like these mirrors, big mirrors that would be in the corners of like different parts of the markets, whatever, where if you were the cashier or owner or whatever, and you're maybe pushing a broom or whatever, you could look up and kind of keep an eye on this mirror that's in the corner to see who was in that aisle, but really no cameras. And then I can remember there was a newer little, I don't know, almost like a little strip mall, and there was a grocery store that was built a little bit later in the 70s called Alpha Beta is what it was called. And then I remember going into this new grocery stores, and they had maybe 1-2 cameras like behind these little angled glass things on the wall. And I remember my mom saying, I remember you need to behave yourself when you're in the grocery store and everything, because you're being on camera right now. And I'm going, okay. Well, when I look back at that, as far as the technology, that must have been pretty crude cameras. You probably didn't have, real clear picture, compared to what we have these days and everything. So when these crimes went down in the early 80s, if they had cameras, could they really tell what the person looked like? You've seen old VHS, old recordings and everything, man. It's kind of hard to tell, So I don't know if anybody was ever able to get caught on a crude camera, trying to do this.
I think that's why we see a bunch of people who, it's kind of like a sketch artist where they put out a sketch and it's like, oh, that looks like my grandpa, things like that, where it's like, and then all of a sudden you get all these tips and it's like, and I think a lot of, not necessarily a lot, but I think people can be arrested unjustly, I guess, when they hadn't done things. I think that's hopefully gotten better with technology, but I don't know. I could see that being an issue for sure.
Yeah. Going back to like the contact DNA stuff, like it's really misleading sometimes, because the contact DNA can be passed even if the person didn't even touch, say, like the sheath in the Idaho murders. So that's why in the Idaho murders they couldn't tell if it was Koberger, because it might have been passed on from a different person.
Right. I can't remember if they can actually use that as evidence or not, because it's kind of hard to know.
Well, and I've been on a jury before, and I tell you what, all it takes is reasonable doubt.
You mean to be acquitted?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is wild.
Is that why you let that murderer
so
out? Just kidding.
No. But I did. Anyway, I'm not sure I should talk about that case. Anyway, go ahead.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, hold on 1 second, Josh. Were you on a murder case?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
No. I'm talking about with your jury duty, not were you a murderer?
No, I was on a jury duty and I remember I had to.
You don't have to give names.
No, I'll just tell you real quick. This kid had a ripped up shirt, had some blood on his shirt and everything. And there had been a robbery in a like a hardware store and lumber yard, and we thought we had enough evidence against him. And it was like he was in the neighborhood, he was running the whole works. but there was just a one part of it and everything that brought in reasonable doubt. Even though in my mind I'm going, gosh, this guy, he did it. But yeah, they came and talked to us about this reason why that kid got off. And I say kid, he was in his 20s. But yeah.
And murdered someone the next day. No, just kidding.
No. No. But and the thing is that the lumberyard had razor wire around it, and here he had ripped sweatshirt, and it had blood on it, from and apparently from his own body and everything. But there was something that was thrown in there and everything, and all of a sudden reasonable doubt, and that guy got off. And I was like, you got to be kidding. And I can also remember him looking back with a smirk smile. He had that guilty look with a smirk smile. I'm like, you
should have had your suck my back mug. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, I bet that's what you would have done.
All right. What were we going to say, Josh?
I was going to say, so what do you think would have been reasonable? What would have made this guy guilty for changing out to Tylenol? Like, why didn't he serve more than he did? If you were on jury duty, what would
Well, I don't know. Like, it's different, back then, because obviously they didn't have DNA. So, they just didn't, from my understanding, they didn't have enough to convict him of,
even though he said
murder.
I'll stop doing this.
Well, I mean, you think about like I don't know. That kind of reminds me of like the Zodiac killer case where they, whoever was sending letters, and there was, copycat letters too, and there were, people who were admitting to or saying like, hey, if you don't do this, like there's that one where I'm trying to remember, they said that they were going to shoot up like a bus full of kids or something like that if they didn't. I can't remember what the stipulations were, but
blackmail.
Yeah, you can say that, but that doesn't mean that you were guilty of murder. You know what I mean? Like, so you could, it's kind of like yelling bomb in an airport. Like, you can do that, but it's not like, I don't know. They must have had, I haven't watched like the in-depth thing. I don't know if you guys have seen the one. Netflix just came out with the Tylenol Murder documentary, and I haven't watched it yet. But, obviously there was some doubt whether, it could have been that he had an alibi, that he just wasn't in the area. I don't know. But there was obviously something that, led to them saying, yeah, you didn't murder these people.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, well, why the heck would you, write a letter like that? But people are just stupid.
Well, and you were talking about, DNA evidence, and, that is, when you think about the history of DNA evidence, that's fairly recent. I'm sure. And I can remember in late 80s, early 90s, they were just starting to really come out with that, and it was pretty primitive. But even with that, the guy could have been wearing rubber gloves when he's working with these capsules. He's not going to leave any fingerprints on the capsules or anything like that. If he's using rubber gloves, he may not even put sweat or grime or anything from his fingers on it. I don't know, but even if they would have had DNA evidence during that time, I don't think they could trace it. Yeah, I think it was a few more years, even more so in the early 90s, that they could do it even with blood. So it's a lot more sophisticated these days.
I was just looking real quick and just like a little overview, and they were saying the reason why he got off was there was like no direct evidence. So there were no fingerprints, no DNA, obviously, no eyewitnesses. He actually was living in New York and not Chicago. So, I mean, he was a far way away.
Oh my goodness.
So authorities thought that he was trying to, make a hoax to obviously make money, which is why he got arrested for extortion and not murder. and he was in prison for 13 years for that. He still remained a prime suspect, but there was just no physical evidence that connected to it. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, and I started thinking about this. It was mainly in the Chicago area where they found, the Tylenol with the cyanide and everything. So that's why I think there's some connection of some sort, that someone who lived in the Chicago area or even a suburb of the area, someone who just flipped their lid, that mentally just lost it. Perhaps he was even, because they found some of these in a certain drugstores, Osco or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, maybe he was a former employee that got mad, had a.
It was an inside job.
Yeah.
Well, if he was a former employee, he could have done it in the factory. But you know what it reminds me of, actually? Have you ever seen the episode of The Office where this is horrible to connect these two things?
Oh, great.
There's the one where Michael Scott decides to do like a golden ticket, like the Wonka factory, and he's putting all these golden tickets in. His idea is to put all these golden tickets in these paper packages of paper and then send them out, and people will get discounts. But they accidentally put them in all the boxes that are going to their biggest client, and so all of a sudden the client's like, wow, we got 7 golden tickets. Now we get 70% off of your, because they didn't I think if I remember, they didn't write any disclaimers to one per person. And so all of a sudden their biggest, client that buys thousands of dollars of paper from them is like, oh, sweet, we get 70% off. So it could have been like that, where it's like the guy is, at the Tylenol factory, and he puts some cyanide in a few bottles, and they're all going to Chicago, and they're all in this pack that happens to go to the same, place in, I don't know. But if it was Michael Scott working at the Tylenol factory, that would have happened.
Wow.
But I was going to say, it's, as kid, if it was something like a dare or something like you mentioned before, I could see that happening, where it's because kids, it's easy to go too far. And I was thinking about some TikTok trends, back in, I think it was around COVID, where people were going in to grocery stores and taking the lids off of ice cream and just licking them and putting them back. I don't know if you remember that, Josh. It was disgusting.
Well,
but things like that, where it's oh, I see it on TikTok, or back then where it's I dare you to do this. But then, it calls into question, where's a kid getting cyanide? I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
So just a theory, but as I think about it, I don't know where to get cyanide. And so I doubt a kid in the 80s would know where to get cyanide. Who knows?
Yeah. I just with that fact alone, with the chemical and everything, it had to have been an adult. And then I see, you think about, what do you call it when, oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Investigators who try to figure out what type of person would do this type of thing. What do they call that?
Like a profiler?
Thank you. Profiling everything. Well, maybe he was a chemist. Maybe he was a high school science teacher. Maybe
Walter
he was
White.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. That's right.
But you never know, though, because those are the type of people that have a little bit more knowledge on how to mix chemicals and get things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God.
I love looking at Criminal Minds. I love that show because that's exactly what they do. They come up with profiles of people and who would do this. And that's just so interesting to me.
Well, you think about it too. You're talking about copycats earlier, but think about all these shows where people get ideas from,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more of a problem nowadays. I don't know what kind of shows were on in the 80s, but I think about right now, where it's you think about shows like Black Mirror or Criminal Minds or any of those crime shows, where it's it'd be easy to go. You kind of Well, that's like Brian. Back to the Idaho murders. It's like Brian Koberger. He was a. I'm trying to remember. I think
He was studying.
Yeah, he was studying criminal justice,
Criminal?
right?
Yeah, that's right.
But then, like, he kind of used that and some of the research he had done to try to get away with the perfect crime, in my opinion.
Well,
And-
he studied. I forget the case, but he was studying a case that was very similar, where this guy went on a stabbing frenzy, and it was reported that he like was studying that case closely on why he did it and how he did it. So I'm sure he got multiple ideas from all the different studies that he did.
Well, and obviously he's schmicked in the head, you know.
Yep.
But
Gross
you think about these, you know, different crime shows, different documentaries we've watched and everything, but it's a pretty sick mind where they study how they're gonna do it. So you talk about premeditated. That's exactly what that is. It's premeditated.
I'm just waiting for a case where it's like somebody just asked ChatGPT how to do it. I mean, I think ChatGPT will say, no, this goes against our community guidelines. But I'm pretty sure Grok would do it because
Yeah,
Grok
I've heard about that.
Wild.
Have you heard about what just recently happened
with AI?
With Grok?
No. What happened?
Like, oh, no. Well, maybe. What is it?
Well, I think I can't remember what someone asked it, but it went off and started saying like Hitler was correct, like, and all sorts of crazy things
that's messed up.
Yeah, it kind of went off the rails.
I did read that. It's like Elon Musk giving the Roman salute
from the get-go.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? You're supposed to be brilliant.
My heart goes out to.
I don't know.
Grok. He's the one who made Grok.
No, was he really?
Yeah,
no,
Grok
he wasn't.
Yes. Grok is.
See, I don't know that much about AI.
Well, that's why we're on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say. We covered this case. We didn't really add anything groundbreaking, but we had a couple stories, a couple theories. The thing I want about from this podcast, this is not something where we're going to go in and solve the case. This is something where we're going to relate the case to a regular viewer in Chicago or South Dakota or Wyoming, and hopefully make it a little bit fun.
Hopefully get people thinking.
We like to make murder fun on this podcast. That's what we're all about. I'm just kidding.
Not fun.
Just kidding.
Well, it gets a dialogue going and get you thinking.
Yeah. On a serious note, what I really want to say is a tragedy. I'm not trying to make light of a tragedy. That's sad, and that's anytime anything like that happens, that's messed up. But this should seriously make you think about, especially if you have kids, like talk to them about not taking things from other people, especially pills. Make sure you talk to your kids and say, hey, do not take anything. Like for me, I won't even if it comes out of a bottle, I'm not taking it from somebody else. I will go buy something from Walgreens before I take something out of somebody's purse or whatever. So that's what you should really take from this thing is if you get a headache, go buy something from Walmart or whatever. And you open the seal and you make sure that it came from there.
I mean, how many times you think about this, and I know that you're trying to wrap it up, but there's been several times I've bought something from, I don't know, Walmart or regular, and open it up and it's like, man, that ketchup bottle seal on top is a little bit open right there.
I know.
You don't just go, it'll be okay. You never know.
I'm paranoid.
You got to be smart. You got to be smart.
Well, let's call it right there for today. Thanks for checking in and joining us for another episode of Sinisterum. Thanks to Josh and my dad and our dad for coming on this show. You're probably going to see more of him coming up, along with some other guests that we're friends with, because we like to have other people on the show. And yeah, this is just us talking, having fun, and not taking it too seriously. So if you get offended by that, sorry. You can go to the next podcast. But you guys have a wonderful week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on. That really helps us grow. And we will catch you next time.